Welcome to episode 185 of the Fully In It podcast. What traditions or experiences do you remember most from your own childhood? Regardless of how your upbringing went, what if you could create meaning in your home that your children will always remember? What if the seeds you plant today will be held for future generations? If this intrigues you, let's go ahead and dig into traditions on this episode. Welcome to the Fully In It podcast with Kate Saffel, a show for powerful moms growing life-changing businesses while showing up intentionally for their families. I teach you how to create a family-first and profitable business in less time by leveraging simple strategy, mom life-friendly systems, and above all, the mindset of going fully in it. You ready? So I feel like I should just give you a heads up if I sound a bit tired. I had mastitis earlier this week and it completely sidelined me. I had never had mastitis with my other kiddos and I was surprised how sick I felt. I felt like I had the flu. And so I'm still kind of in recovery mode, but I really wanted to make sure that you had an episode coming out this weekend. And so all that to say, if I sound a bit tired, that's what it is. So let's go ahead and talk about this though. I'm curious, what traditions or experiences do you have fond memories of from your childhood? If you're like many adults today, it could definitely run the full gamut from having positive experiences, having kind of a mixed bag of experiences, to having a lot of negative experiences. And if that was you, if that was your childhood, I'm so sorry that that was your experience. The thing is that, sometimes we grow up with steady rhythms, family traditions, a foundation that lasts. I mean, that's like the gold standard, isn't it? Or sometimes your childhood was anything but, and you're craving that now for yourself and your family. So wherever you find yourself in that spectrum, just know that you have the power and the ability to change it for your children and for future generations. We had simple traditions growing up, like getting donuts on Saturday mornings or going to the same summer vacation spot every single summer. We went to church on Sundays and had lunch at my grandmother's house afterward until she passed away when I was 12. We made pierogies and krushki on holidays. I had a simple childhood with a handful of traditions that shaped who I am as an adult, and these are the things that I remember and I love to share with my own children. But more and more, traditions are falling away to pop culture. We're more likely to create traditions from what we see an influencer on TikTok doing than to consult our grandmothers, right? Like, isn't this just the truth anymore? And I wonder what the impact of that's going to be on family life long term. Like, I genuinely wonder what that's going to do to our families, that we tend to look more outside to culture, like books and TV and social media, than we do to within our own families. Listen, I'm pretty traditional. I don't know if you know this about me. I decorate my house in grandma chic, right? I love me a good Afghan. I've got, like old oil paintings on my walls and very traditional blue and white colors, and it's just who I am. And I'm just as likely to be listening to music on vinyl as I am on Spotify. I love talking about memories. I love talking about family history. This helps me personally feel very rooted in who I am and where I came from. And I talked in my homemaking episode a few episodes ago about how our current home, it feels so much like home because we finally got some of our family heirlooms out of storage, like my great grandmother's secretary's desk that's at least, it's got to be probably at least 150 years old. My Polish grandmother's chest that I have at the foot of my bed. Like, these things, they're meaningful to who I am as a person. And this ultimately means that I believe that certain patterns of behavior in family life are deeply important for our children, and they're deeply important for us adults too. They are a balm to the chaos of the modern and hectic and busy world that we face on a daily basis. So I want to talk a little bit why traditions are so important. Traditions root you to who you are and where you came from. We all come from somewhere, right? And do we remember that? Do we hold fast to our culture and the way that we were raised? This sense of belonging is important for children, as it is the first shaping of their identity. It helps tell them who they are and that they matter to the family. It says this is how we express ourselves as a family. It also creates rhythms, daily, weekly, seasonally within the family home, to create anchors in the busyness of the outside world. When life is go, 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 I think we all know this, right? I did this yesterday. I felt like I was driving everywhere to get people places. It feels like it's never stopping, right? So having those weekly or seasonal traditions, they're like a stopping point for rest and connection. And I know that you know this, but this is something I have to remind myself of too, is that we can always fill our plate with more. And sometimes things are on our schedule and they're just mandatory, they're non-negotiable. But you can also make traditions non-negotiable too. And you can say, hey, we're not going to do that other thing because it's important that we gather together as a family and do this instead. I think that sends an important message to our children. It tells them that they have control over their schedule and their lives, that they don't always have to say yes to everything, and that family matters more than anything. And that's the message that we want to send to our children. Traditions are also an intangible heirloom that you can pass down to next generations. So unlike a piece of furniture like my great-great-great-grandmother's secretary's desk, or, precious china or objects, traditions are easy to transport and they can be shared by all of your children and your future grandchildren. Like, that's the really cool thing, is that, they're passed down orally, right? We communicate, hey, this is what we do as a family. These are the things that we value and prioritize. And then everybody can partake, even if everybody is not always together in the same geographic location. So how do you create traditions? Well, first, I would think about the ones you already have that maybe you intentionally have or you unintentionally have, right? There might be some things you're doing that maybe you're like, oh, I don't actually think we should be doing this anymore. This isn't a positive tradition that we want the kids to think is part of our family's culture. Maybe there's something you want to stop doing. But you may have things you do regularly as a family that feel meaningful to all of you. That's a tradition. And traditions can revolve around food and activities or words or holidays or your faith, anything that has meaning to your family. And ultimately, you get to decide. That's really the beauty of it, is it's so unique to you and your family. And it's not going to look the same for everyone. I would also look into your past. Are there any traditions from your childhood that you would love to revive with your own family? Maybe there's things that you used to do that you don't do anymore. So I mentioned like the kruszki. These are Polish crullers, or sometimes they're called angel wings, and they're dough that you twist and then you fry it and then you dip it in powdered sugar. I mean, delicious, of course. And I really hadn't made them a whole lot in my adult years, maybe just a handful. This was not something I was doing regularly with my kids, but I grew up regularly doing it. And we made them recently, and I was like, wow, this was so easy to do, relatively speaking. I mean, we spent a couple hours doing it, but it wasn't like complicated, but it had meaning. And then the kids talked about it so much, and my daughter took them to school, and it had a really positive ripple effect. And so I thought, okay, this is something we could make these once a month, or we could make them for holidays like we did when I was a child. And so you may have things like that too that you also would love to revive. You can also ask yourself, when I'm a grandparent, what traditions do I hope my children will be teaching their children? Sometimes when we take on a future lens, like we kind of like zoom out to the future, and then we look backward to now, it can give you clarity on what matters most to you, right? It simplifies things. It helps kind of tune out some of the mental clutter of today, and you can just really like hone in on, okay, yeah, but like 40 years from now, what do I hope we're doing as a family? What is actually going to feel significant to all of us? Recently, Kirk and I had this conversation, and we began imagining what we hoped our children would remember when they are adults. And it had us revising some of our own traditions, our faith practices, even planning ahead for anchoring in new monthly and seasonal memory making activities. So, for example, I've talked about this a lot on the podcast. We used to travel full time in our RV. We've done 4 years total living in our RV and traveling around the US. Obviously, this is kind of a little countercultural, right? But this is us. This is who we are as a family, and it's significant. And so the past few years, we really haven't been traveling very much because we've been busy planting deep roots here in Florida, building community, setting up a strong financial legacy for our family. That just took a lot of our time and our attention. And so unfortunately, the travel has been on the back burner. So recently we've been getting much needed repairs done on our fifth wheel and prepping it for future weekend camping trips. I'm so excited to just have that time away together, to slow down, to wake up in the morning and sit in my little chair outside the camper and drink my coffee and talk to Kirk and watch the kids ride their bikes and just be away from all the things that kind of distract us in the home. And so I booked ahead some weekends for us to go camping, as well as for my daughter's 12th birthday trip next January that she wants to take to a favorite spot that we have. So it takes work to make all these things happen, right? It does. But it's work worth undertaking for the value it brings to our family. And I think forward to the future with anticipation of hearing how my adult children are going to share with their kids about our camping and travel memories. Like, this just makes me so excited to think like, okay, like we're planting these seeds now for what I hope will, feel significant to our family in the future. So what about you? What might take some work initially, but would have a positive impact on future generations of your family? Take some time to think this over and speak with your spouse if you have one. Create a family manifesto if that's something that feels good to you, and put into words what matters most to your family. A family rich in its own delightful traditions will always feel like a lighthouse to your children, a safe place that they can always return to even as adults. I think that this matters, and I hope that this episode spoke to you and it gave you just some things to think over. I would love to hear from you if if this kind of like inspires you and you start thinking through some family traditions, or maybe you revive some ones from your past. Send me an email and tell me about them. You can send the email to hello@happierinmotherhood.com. My inbox is always open. Like I've said in past episodes, I'm really no longer on social media. Hooray. I still am so happy about this decision. But something is going to be coming. I actually have decided to bring back my blog, and I don't want to give too much away. I'll be sharing more soon, but I've come up with the coolest format of something I'm going to be sharing regularly that I've never done before. It's going to be totally free. And I really hope that you will subscribe to it and make it part of your daily and weekly rituals. That's all I'm going to say. Okay, I hope that you are doing amazing and that this episode was good to you. And I will see you next week.